need a cup of tea. So this is a dose of sunshine. Hello to everyone watching on Facebook Live and to whoever is going to be watching on the registration on the Zoom presentation. So I'm going to get started and I'm going to share my screen. So this morning we're actually talking about, let's see if I can get that to go down so I can see what I'm doing. This takes a little bit of working out, guys, first thing in the morning. So for those that are watching on live, if you ever want to see the presentation and the slideshow, then just register on the link that I have put into this page. I put it on a little while ago so that you get the opportunity to see what I'm talking about, as well as you know, seeing me. So this morning we're talking about the do's and don'ts of a clear frequency. So I personally have found that when you've got stuff going on in your body or whatever, and I'm going to share with you more about that in a minute, then it's really challenging to have a clear connection to your source energy or to your intuition and stuff. So we're going to go through that and what that means. So for those that are watching on the call, and for those that may be watching and have never don't know who I am, so my name is Elizabeth Eleanor, and I've been a remedial massage therapist for 20 plus years, or I was a remedial massage therapist, so I'm actually starting to take that hat off. And I discovered energy and healing. It actually discovered me about 18 years ago. And I'm actually starting to write a book because it was really interesting how it all happened. My son, who actually has no memory of it now, was the first to sort of start putting me through the experience of what is he talking about. He used to come up with some really crazy stuff when he was younger. Like I remember driving in the car with him once and he said, when God was my father, I just sort of looked at him and went, what are you talking about? And he said, when God was my father, we used to make clouds, pictures in the clouds, and a little bit of down here is really big and colourful up there, and you don't need police and all of this stuff. And he used to say stuff like that on a regular basis, and I just thought it was a kid, you know, playing and having an imagination. And he actually, at that stage, I was starting to wonder, you know, what's going on? Because he'd said some other stuff prior. What's going on? And so I said to him, when was that? When did that happen? And he used to daze out a little bit, and then he'd come back and he'd say, it was, I can't remember, but it was when you had the blue car. And I thought, oh, I've got him now. You know, I've never had a blue car, and, you know, I didn't think much of it. Well, maybe about 6 months later, I can't remember how long it was, but I know it was a long time. I took him over to his dad's house for a visit, and his dad was talking to some friends about the Prem. Now, we used to call it the Prem. We've got no photos of it. It was a Premier car, and we were teenagers. It was like maybe 10 years before Curtis even came on Earth, and it was a blue car. And it just sort of like hit me that, oh my gosh, there's something in this. And that was just one of many things that were going on. But anyway, I got to this point not that long ago. I think it was about 10 years ago. It might have even been longer than that now that I think about it, because I've been in Sydney for 5 years. So in fact, all these times could be totally different because I'm not the best with time. But I found myself in an experience where I discovered through a big story that I had a 15-centimeter fibroid. And I had no idea how I had created that, because I was already, spiritual and understanding or learning things as I went along. And I couldn't work out how I'd created that, because there was nothing to indicate that I actually had a fibroid. There was no bloating, there was no missed cycle, there was no painful cycle, nothing to indicate that I had this. And yet they were saying that they were going to have to take my uterus out because of my age and how big it was. Like, that's apparently huge, right? I remember listening to an ABC radio interview with someone, and they were saying that they had a 10-centimeter fibroid, and the presenter was going, "Oh my gosh, that was huge." And I'm thinking, that's nothing. And why they said it was 15, I don't know, because I had some massive fibroid parts come out of me. Through that process, I actually healed myself. The fibroid and I worked it out. And I did end up in hospital. I do believe that there's a time and a place for doctors. I don't disagree with the system that's available for all of us, and we are so blessed in Australia that we've got access to all of that. But I got rid of the fibroid by myself, and while I was in hospital, it was expelling. But every time it would come out, the doctors would go, "Oh, no, that's impossible. You can't get rid of a fibroid. That must be a polyp," or something like that. Anyway, I got rid of the fibroid. When it finally all came out, they were like, "Well, actually, I think it is the fibroid. We have no idea how you're doing that." And I did. I was working on my body, my mind, and my spirit all together. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today, the do's and don'ts, right? So when you're working with your frequency, you don't want to separate your body, your mind, and your spirit. It's a whole system. So while I was working with my fibroid, I actually did some study to find out what is a fibroid. And I found out that they don't actually really know. They do know it's a benign tumor in your uterus, but they don't know where it comes from. There was information on there saying that it was that it's got to do with heavy metals, and there's all this information. But one of the things is that it's estrogen based. So one of the things that I did, once I understood about the actual fibroid, I actually then made sure that I had no estrogen in my foods and all of that sort of stuff. But then what I did was I worked with my whole body as a whole. I didn't just work on my uterus. I made sure that I did a heavy metal detox. I detoxed my body. I alkalized my water. I ate the cleanest I have ever in my whole life. Everything I did was working on my whole body. So what happens in one part of your body is affecting everything. So there's a dichotomy to these things, right? I've got this thing about labels. Labels are great in one way and not in another. Once sometimes you need to know something, and so having a label about what it is works really well. But once you've got that identification, then completely let go of it and work with your whole system in its entirety. So pay attention to what your body's telling you, right? You want to be working with your health when it comes to your frequency, because I don't think I know anyone that is completely connected to themselves. I actually have, in saying this, I have met quite a few way back, quite a few energy workers that smoke like chimneys. And yet I still totally believe that your body and your health is really important if you want to support your frequency to be the cleanest and clearest it possibly can, right? So you want to eat live food. I used to say when the kids were little, live food for live kids. It was one of those things that I used to say just to remind myself, what am I feeding my children? Because it's so easy for us to have preservatives in our food. You know, there's so much processed food around. So you want to, if you possibly can, get organic. I know that that's a little bit challenging here in Australia with the prices as well, but you know, eating food that you know has come from a farm is a great way to think about it. So not the junk foods, not the processed foods. All of those things can inflame the body. So you want to be using antioxidants. So I've got a nutritional drink that's the highest antioxidants that you can get. And so I know that every day I'm getting what I need every morning when it comes to antioxidants. That's what keeps my skin and my youth going and my brain functioning well. And so lots of vegetables and greens. I'm also wheat and dairy free. All of those things. I'm not I don't think I would say I'm intolerant to it, but I do believe that, or I'm not allergic to it is the best way to say it. I do know that when I have wheat and dairy, that my brain doesn't function as well, and I put weight on. So when I'm having wheat and dairy, when I've eliminated those things out of my diet, then I know that my brain functions a lot better because my digestion is working better. So the brain and the gut work really, they're synchronistic. They work hand in hand, basically, and they've shown that in science these days as well. And every so often I do a detox. I totally believe that when you're if you haven't done a detox on your bowel, then get in contact with me, because your bowel needs to be cleaned once a year, in my opinion. And that is because all of the old information that gets stuck on the sides of the digestive tract is old consciousness, is all old vibration, it's all old memories. And so when you're clearing that out, then you've got a clearer focus and you're not so much in the past, you're more in the present, and you can work with the future. You want to also be aware of the things that you're putting on your skin and the air that you're breathing. So our skin is the largest organ. And when you put something on your skin, within 20 minutes, it's in every cell of your blood. So you want to be making sure that you're using plant-based products in our home, on our body, and in the air we breathe. I think it's something, I was going to look this up and I actually didn't get the chance to, but I think it's something like 250, something around, I know it was 200 and something chemicals that a woman can put on her body before she leaves the house to go to work. That's from the makeup that she's wearing, the shampoos and conditioners, the soaps that she's using, even the toothpaste. It's really scary, right? The deodorant that she puts on her face, on her under her arms, the stuff that, you know, the gel and stuff that you put in your hair. It's crazy. Then perfume, all of these things before you walk out the door, and you know, the face creams and all of those things can be really, really toxic. And so as you can see, if you're on the webinar, you can see that I've got a list there of things to avoid. Sodium lauryl sulfate, that's in our toothpaste, that's in our washing powder. They often call it sodium lauryl sulfate, but both of them are the same. They actually create things to foam up and actually quite toxic and can cause cancer. In fact, a lot of those chemicals that you can see, that list, they actually are cancer causing or irritants to the bowels, to the liver, to the skin. You can actually pause this if you're watching the replay and go and check out all of those things. Aluminium, we all know aluminium is bad, but it is still in the products that we're using. Formaldehyde, triclosan. Oh my gosh, everyone is going crazy with waterless hand purifiers at the moment because of COVID, and yet is a government regulation, worldwide government regulation, that they can't, no one can sell pure alcohol. If you sell pure alcohol, then it's got to be taxed at 800% or something ridiculous like that, right? And so what they do when they're using, when in waterless hand purifiers, they have to poison the alcohol so that they can, you know, they don't get taxed so much, and it's not pure alcohol anymore. And so they put triclosan in, which is actually really, really irritating to the skin. A lot of people are finding with their waterless hand purifiers that their hands are getting dry and rashes on them because we're using them so much. If that is you, please get in contact with me. I'm using one that is toxic free. It's the only waterless hand purifier that I know of on the planet that is toxic free, doesn't use triclosan. And they've got another method that the government allows them to do instead. So synthetic fragrances. Did you know that if anything's got the word fragrance in it, it actually can have anything, you know, up to 200 chemicals in it, because a fragrance is synthetic based and is made in a lab. And so because perfumes come under the trade secret, they don't actually have to tell you what is in it. But things like propylene glycol, parabens, all of these things, unfortunately, they actually can cause cancer and do other damage to our body. And so all of these things are in our perfume, ladies. You know, here we are trying to make ourselves smell nice. You know what really, really frustrates me, and I don't know if it's a good thing to be putting on out in public, but it really frustrates me when you see perfumes and they've got the pink ribbon supporting breast cancer, and yet they're the things that are actually causing it in the first place. You know, putting deodorants on underneath your armpits, and where are the lymphatics going? Straight into the breasts. And so these are the things that we really need to be aware of. Plant-based products enhance your health. So, you know, yes, you can use things like, what do you call it? Bicarb and vinegar, and that works well in some situations. I've heard that vinegar actually isn't good for the bathroom because it can cause damage to the grout. However, I use products that don't just have no chemicals in them. I'm using products that are actually enhancing my health, so that the products actually enhance our health, not just a neutral with no chemicals in them. So be aware of that. The air that you breathe as well, when we're inside the house, we're constantly inside the house. And these days, being inside the house is more toxic than being outside of the house because of the glues in the carpet, you know, things like, you know, I can't remember what's in the glues. I'm just looking at that formaldehyde, I think. But there's a whole heap of stuff that is in our bodies if we don't watch out, and we can't stop. There's something like 200 chemicals a day being created. They have to be put into a particular authority to make sure that they are compliant and all of these things, right? But we can't stop that onslaught of chemicals in the system. However, we can minimize it, and then we can use things to enhance our body so that we actually are not getting that into our system as much. We've got other things like the antioxidant drink, for example, right? Stopping the rusting that's happening in our body and enhancing and helping our body defend itself against the onslaught of all these chemicals in our homes, the air we're breathing, the products that we're putting on our skin, all of those things, right? All of those things can be challenging for our frequency, to keep our frequency connected. Another thing is declutter, right? So a messy house creates a messy energy. You wouldn't think it is very subtle. It's really subtle. However, the things that can cause our frequency, the things that we're looking at in the house. So we've got a lot of mess in the house. If we've got piles of things that we're going to get to, or products, like, you know, even things like gifts that people have given us. If we find that we've got stuff in our house that don't make us sing, our energy sing, our that we don't love, then it's changing our vibration, because even if you're not aware of it, the things that are in your environment coming into your eyes and making an assessment in your brain unconsciously. So your brain is looking at things that you go, oh, I've got to get to that, I've got to get to that, without even any conscious awareness of it. So you want to release the past that doesn't serve you. Look around the house and declutter the home. You know, is this something that makes me sing? Do I love it? It doesn't, I'm getting rid of it. You know, give it to another person. I've just done a big declutter of the house I'm in. Like some, you know, coffee tables and all sorts of stuff, so that I could really clear the space that I'm living in, so that my brain and my body and my energy can function in a better way. You also want to work on your financial freedom. We all think it's really normal for us to actually have debt, you know, mortgage, couple of credit cards, all of these things, because we're actually in a society that program us to think that it's okay. And yet, to move towards financial freedom, where we are constantly getting rid of those things and come to a place where we have no debts whatsoever, even the house mortgage, the freedom of that is unbelievable. The shackles that come off the shackles that come off your body, or your ankle, like you've been shackled to your debt, the freedom of that is something that you can't explain until you've experienced it. So be self-aware of chunking down on all of those things, those finances that you've got as well. And that's something that, if you're in that situation, again, get in contact with me, because I know there's a method of how to get rid of those things out of your life. So also in that process, be self-aware of the purchases that you're making. Be aware that when you go to the petrol station to buy petrol, that those images of the ads that are saying buy one Mars bar and get one free, or whatever they say, that's someone else taking control of your money. Be aware of those things, and are you jumping into those things? Hey, Ankita, good morning. Be aware of those things that are purchases that are not for your health and for your higher frequency. Be aware that there are, if you're not in control of your money, then you're allowing other people to be in control of your money. And you are being programmed to believe that you need that Mars bar, or you need that new iPhone, you need this or you need that. So be aware, self-aware of the purchases that you're having as well. And finally, surround yourself with love. So nurture your health, as I was saying, some beautiful antioxidant, really high frequency, nourishing food. Plant-based essential oils are fantastic. So one of the things that I do every morning is I put an essential oil on my crown chakra. so that I'm opening up my crown chakra for the day and supporting myself to be protected and grounded at the same time. Crystals are another great way. Oh, I thought I had a crystal here to show you. But crystals are another great way. Be aware of cleansing your crystals, so, you know, because they can accumulate negative energy sometimes. But having beautiful things like crystals around, you know, to shift the frequency in your home. Salt lamps to change the ionic, ions in the air. If you're living near a beach, well done to you, because going to the beach is another great way to change the negative and positive energies, particles inside you, and help you relax. Be aware of the 5 people that influence you in your life. So if you've got someone that's really negative, have a think about whether you really, really need to have them in your life. If they're a family member or a loved one, like a partner or a husband or a wife or something like that, and you love them dearly, then be aware of what you can do to change your frequency if they're affecting the way you behave. Be aware of, you know, having some time out and filling your own cup up, asking them, you know, having some really intimate conversations with them about how they're affecting you, and see if you can, you know, change some of that for yourself. And of course, your mind. Be aware of the patterns that your mind is, the stories that your mind is telling you, and whether you're listening to them or not, and whether you're changing that frequency, because all of these things are keeping your frequency low if you don't do something actively to, like, proactively to change those things so that you've got a clearer, higher quality frequency. So guys, that's it. If you're on the webinar, I would love to keep in contact. You can see the QR code there that will connect you directly to my the Spiritual Warrior. So it's Elizabeth Eleanor, the Spiritual Warrior. If you're watching on the Facebook Live, then you're already on the Spiritual Warrior. So thank you for watching, and those that, you know, thank you for watching the replay as well. So I've got a few different groups. So I've got Women of Light as well. So you may be watching the watch party in Women of Light. So thank you, and I hope you're having a great start of the week. And if you want to know more about any of these things, about changing your frequency, you know, plant-based products so that you're not putting chemicals. When I first started this, I actually found that the green products that I was using still had undisclosed chemicals in them, and they also have disclosed chemicals on their link, like on their pages. And I've actually just recently gone and looked at some green products and some products outside, you know, because I've got my own products that I use that are all chemical free, full disclosure on the ingredients, and consuming, like, you know, helping me with my health. But I just recently went and checked, and these days some of the products even have that you've got to go to the website if you want to know what's in them. Who's got the time to do that? No one even looks, right? So if you're someone that is wanting to know more about how to keep a clear frequency with any of the things that I spoke about, you know, plant-based products, food, financial freedom, you know, decluttering the home, the 5 influences, all of those sort of things. If you're someone that wants to know a little bit more about that, then jump on and have a complimentary 30-minute session. I only give out a few of them, these a month, and at the start of the month, you know, I've got about 10 that I can give away. And so if that's someone that, if that interests you, then please just put yes, please in the link, and we will be able to send you some information about that. Also, this month for my Women of Light meetup, we have the beautiful Nicolette Jane, and she's going to be our guest speaker, and she's going to be talking about the art of belonging. And so that's on the 21st of July. If you would like to know a little bit more about the about that meetup, then just put in the comments meetup please, and we will be able to send you the link for that as well. I've just got someone on wanting to say something in the chat. Excellent. Okay, I will get onto that, Rebecca. Thanks very much. I'll let you know. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. I can see Irene is on here. Good morning, Irene. I'm going to have my beautiful antioxidant drink for the morning, and I will see you all soon. And thank you so much, and have a beautiful week, everyone. So I'm going to say goodbye to the Facebook page. Take care and see you later. And thank you everyone that's watching on the webinar. We will send you the replay to this. And it's a little bit challenging doing two together, but I'm going to stop the share. Stop the recording. Bye everyone.